During your trek through the woods, you are suddenly ambushed by a herd of dire elk, led by a two-headed ogre who is brandishing a massive enchanted dagger, which glows with a ghostly pink light.
Did you plan any of this, or are you just letting the dice decide it all?
Answer unclear. Try again later.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Random encounters are part of many D&D games. Ideally, such situations provide additional danger and opportunities to PCs as they travel, while also giving the DM a break from their prepared encounters with an impromptu conflict and unknown treasure. But often these encounters distract from the overarching adventure rather than adding anything meaningful to it, and are more of a speed bump than a worthwhile scene. So how can we as DMs create random encounters that add something beneficial to the story? After all, throwing random enemies and loot at PCs just to break up the monotony of travel isn't all that interesting, especially when other types of encounters are possible. The main consideration here is finding a balance between randomness and preparation. To get things started, let's take a look at some examples of various encounters to help you decide how much to prepare and how much to leave to chance, and then see how they can tie into your overall story. Generally, there are two unknowns in a random encounter: opposition and reward. For these examples, I'm going to divide each of these categories into 3 types and pair them up, providing 9 potential encounters. The 3 encounter types are the same ones I mentioned in my campaign catalog video showcasing the unfriendly campaign: environmental, social, and conflict. For rewards, we can simply use treasure frequencies: common, uncommon, and rare. Why divide encounters up in this manner? The main reason is to provide your players with a challenge appropriate to the reward they will receive. You can even tell the players how rare the reward is beforehand without actually telling them what the item is. This may seem like metagaming, but it's better described as a player-facing rule, which is used in the unfriendly campaign. PCs may not have the stamina for a wilderness encounter if they just exited a dungeon. Knowing what they're facing and how valuable a reward awaits them gives the players a chance to make informed decisions. Should they fight or flee? A common enemy could be problematic for an already wounded party, with little to gain from the encounter, but for a great prize they could certainly pull out all the stops. Here's a list of sample encounters you as the DM could use once you determine the type of encounter and the value of treasure. Environmental, common loot. The party discovers an overhang of rock that opens up into a shallow cave. Gnawed bones of small animals, mice, rabbits, and squirrels, litter the ground beside tufts of shed fur. The party has 1d4 plus 1 rounds to explore the cave before a pair of wolves returns. If they leave at least 2 rounds before the pack returns, they can escape without being noticed. Leaving 1 round before the wolves arrive requires a stealth check by all PCs opposed by the wolves' perception roll. In back of the cave are the skeletal remains of a hunter, which still holds a usable dagger, bow, quiver of arrows, and 1 common treasure. Environmental, uncommon loot. Several decaying stumps mark the territory of an old homestead in the woods. However, the small shack has been abandoned for some time, with rotting timbers and twisting vines forming the bulk of the structure. Inside, the party will find rotten foodstuffs and ruined tools. One wall on the shack displays 3 rusted bear traps that could be salvaged. 2 of the traps can be sprung without difficulty, but the third requires a successful dexterity check with thieves' tools to disarm it in order to avoid taking damage. The party can also recover a few medium hides from the tanning racks. The body of an old trapper lies in the shack's only bed, dead for quite some time. PCs who search the shack can make a perception check. On a success, they notice a loose floorboard with another armed bear trap underneath, and a lockbox containing an uncommon treasure. Failure on the perception check causes the PC to break through the floorboard and trigger the trap. Environmental, rare loot. What appears to be nothing more than a simple forest clearing is actually the drop point for a mob of bandits. A series of traps and alarms await the PCs, which they must successfully navigate before getting safely into the clearing without alerting nearby bandit patrols. Once in, they will need to search several dummy lockboxes hidden throughout the area, each with their own potentially fatal trap, before they can discover the main loot cache, which holds several small bags of coins, some loose gemstones, and 1 rare treasure. Social, common loot. The PCs stumble upon a lost villager in the woods. Although afraid, the individual is reluctant to trust the group without a successful persuasion to befriend them or nature check to convince the person they know how to get to safety. If the party escorts the villager home, their family will reward them with a common treasure item. Social, uncommon loot. The party crosses paths with a wounded hunter who is attacked by wolves. Although she scared the beasts off, they may soon return. This requires a successful animal handling check using strength or constitution instead of wisdom to drive them away indefinitely. A medicine check is also needed to stabilize the hunter before moving her. Once returned to her cabin, the woman can properly clean her wound and rest while it heals. In gratitude, she offers the party an uncommon treasure for their aid. Social, rare loot. While walking along the forest trail, the PCs encounter a traveling merchant. The vendor is eager to trade stories with the party and has a number of items for sale, including one rare treasure. As an alternative to this encounter, the PCs are interrupted by a pixie fluttering through the trees. The tiny face seems curious about them at first, but doesn't approach the party. This encounter can be handled with a skill challenge, the rules of which are explained in one of my earlier videos. The PCs must use their skills to attract and befriend the pixie before it flies away. 3 successful skill checks are required to complete the challenge before the party gets 3 failures. If successful, Pixie lands in one of the character's hands, then chuckles gleefully and disappears, leaving behind a rare treasure. Conflict, common loot. A vicious growl followed by a panicked scream alerts the party to a bear attack. While this scenario will likely lead to combat, the PCs have a brief opportunity to calm or drive away the beast before initiative is rolled. If they can dispatch the creature and protect the victim, they will be rewarded with a common treasure from the poor soul. Conflict, uncommon loot. The PCs hear voices ahead of them in the woods and spot a squad of bandits. The brazen cutthroats are itching for a fight, but have yet to notice the party, giving the PCs an opportunity to skirt the battle, ambush the bandits, or even try their luck with a bit of deception. Overpowering or tricking the group nets them some standard weapons and armor as well as an uncommon treasure for their trouble. Conflict, rare loot. Party comes face to face with a green dragon wormling prowling the forest. The young worm will lie, cheat, and connive its way around the PCs, but will eventually attack them in the hopes of gaining additional treasure or slaves. Defeating the immature dragon will yield a rare treasure it recently acquired. This list of encounters may not seem like it has a lot of variety, but they can be the starting point for random encounters in your own adventures. In my Crossroads Encounters video, I mentioned a twin framework designed for creating similar encounters in a split-path adventure, with each set of encounters following the same general game mechanics, but using a different theme. You can use the same basic idea for these random encounters. Just replace the location or creatures encountered with something else that fits and you have a brand new encounter. These particular examples are intended for forest travel, but can easily be altered for use in a variety of other environments. A villager attacked by a bear could be swapped with a giant scorpion harassing a nomad for a desert encounter. And instead of an old hunter's shack in the forest, the party might discover an abandoned dwarven smithy in the mountains. The main point is to avoid reinventing the wheel when all you need to do is change a few details in order to make recurring encounters unique in their own right. Sometimes what happens after a random encounter can be even more important than the encounter itself when it comes to the plot of an adventure or campaign. It's easy to turn random encounters into part of your campaign just by stretching your mental muscle a bit. This can be used to get your players back on track after what might otherwise be a distraction from their current adventure goal. The random encounter with a lost villager led them back to town instead of letting them continue on their journey to the dungeon. But now you have the opportunity to give the party more information about that dungeon or its inhabitants as a reward for their escort mission in addition to the loot they received. The hunter they rescued may have had dealings with the enemies the PCs were tracking and shares her knowledge of their tactics to aid the party in their coming battle. The bandit cache the party just raided also included a map to the Big Bad's lair, giving them an opportunity to assault it directly rather than searching for more clues to its location. Adding plot elements to what would normally be a run-of-the-mill random encounter lets you breathe more life into your world, adding continuity and interconnectedness to your adventures. With practice, you'll be weaving one encounter into the next and connecting adventures as your campaign progresses, creating a vibrant tapestry that is your world. That does it for this episode. If you're looking for a bit of spontaneity to shake things up in your adventures, consider including these random encounters in your game. Until next time, I'm David Watches.
And I'm Nicole Mandia.
And thanks for watching. Special thanks to my longtime friend Bill Batchelor for creating the logo for this channel, and to Dylan Smith for the character art used in this and other videos. I couldn't have done it without them.
For more D&D tips, check out these hot videos.